Hello everyone. Today in English, we are having podcast, live podcast for human beings, the meaningful conversations. And I'm very lucky to announce our today's guest, Thomas Bothe. I'm very happy to know you. So Thomas, hello here.
Hello, hello. Good to see you.
Yes, it's my absolute honor and pleasure to have a live conversation with you. And so let's start maybe with the topic about youth. We are having our conversation with the idea to understand how it is to find the answer who you want to become, because as a kid, adults are usually asking this question to the kids: who you want to become when you will grow up. And so I also would like to start with this question to you. When you was a kid, remember yourself back to those days. Did you know who you want to become when you will grow up, and how it turned out for you?
Nobody asked me ever what I want to become.
No way, lucky you.
Lucky me, yeah. But I do remember that I started formulating for myself an idea that I wanted to write the biggest and best and most comprehensive book ever written about a kind of psychology, about how people work. So this was something I had an idea. The biggest and best and the clearest, yeah, something like that. I had all these superlatives in my mind, how it should be good. Yeah. But I was more interested in the book than if I'm a writer.
Okay.
Something like that. I just want to get that book written. I had this urge. I thought it needs to be written. Okay.
That's interesting. At what age this came?
I 10, 11, something like that, quite early.
But it came not like an idea from outside that you have to figure out who you want to become, who you should be, and so on, but it just developed from the inside that you have this urge to write something.
Yes. I grew up, I'm pretty old. So I grew up at a time when you still had gramophones, so when I was small, like 6 years old, and I listened to, when I was alone, I listened a lot to history stuff and to sagas about knights, and King Arthur and this kind of stuff. So I was into that. So that, of course, is an external influence. But I didn't have anybody close around to me and ask me, what do you want to become in your life? Nobody asked that question. Yeah.
Okay, but now you are positioning yourself as a leadership communication trainer.
Yes.
How you got to this idea?
I have a theory, which I hope is reasonably true. You never know if it's a rationalization afterwards, if that is the reason. But I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, which was a logistics company, family business, 70 trucks, lots of truck drivers, of course. Every morning, this little army of 70 trucks started up, diesel trucks, black clouds and everything. For me, this was a very joyful event. So when this started, before school, I ran down, and I liked to be with all the truck drivers somehow. And they liked me, they adopted me. Like a little mascot, they adopted me. They really liked me. So they taught me all the important things in life, like how to drive a truck with 8 axles at the age of 10, and so I learned that, how to keep a motor together, how to start it in the winter when it's 30 degrees minus, and then all that kind of stuff. So I was very close to them, and I was close to my family. And when I noted somehow, and I was very quiet and observing and all that, but I just observed that there was constantly conflict between the management, which was my family, and the truck drivers. And I knew their thinking, and I knew the management's thinking. And I always, and there was something very weird. I noticed that everybody meant well, had good solutions, but there was some psychological mechanism that when one or the other party said something, came up with a solution, that the other party always had to say, this is a bad idea. Even, and I knew this, even if they had the same fucking idea, sorry. So there was a lack of understanding based on an unwillingness to understand, only because it's the other one who says it. And I just noticed this, and sometimes it was heartbreaking. It really complicated stuff, and sometimes there were disagreements, of course, and that's good if you have real disagreements. But very often there were no disagreements. It was just a stupid mechanism, to. Anyway, this stuck in my mind, and I think at the age of about 45 or so, when I thought after management life, and I kind of was not really interested in that, I just returned to that interest and to leadership communication.
So there is a gap between at what age you had this feeling and understanding that this is some psychological misunderstanding, it's nothing rational there.
That was at the age of about 12.
So at 12 and at 45, you are deciding to...
I decided to do something about it because at the age of 12, I grew up in Germany, and then you have a pretty tough school system. So you need to decide early if you want to become a manual worker or if you want to be a carpenter, this kind of stuff, or if you want to go towards academia. My parents wanted me to move towards academia, which theoretically was not a bad idea, but I didn't do well in school at all.
Why? You have brilliant mind. What's wrong? Why you think this?
I didn't do well because I had a hard time to memorize stuff. Just memorize, and you had to memorize stuff for no reason except that you had to memorize it. It just didn't make sense. And there were a few good teachers who kind of understood how I work, and they managed to find a central theme around something. I remember I had an ethics teacher, which was an alternative to religion, an ethics teacher, and a German teacher, and a sports teacher, and they were really good. So I had brilliant marks in these topics, and everything else was really not good. So I had a tough time actually I lost everything I really wanted to do. I just lost during school, and it was a torture.
How do you mean that?
Because of the pedagogics somehow. It's what can you say? I cannot blame the teacher. I remember a math teacher who, when I asked for the third time how sinus curves, and where are they going to be used, and this was just one too much, and he exploded, and he kicked me out of class for a day, and I came back, and then and he regretted it a little bit, and I understand him. And it was really annoying because I asked these stupid questions. This kind of why and how it fits. I understand that it was hard to explain for him because I had too little education, of course, but he somehow couldn't get it across. At the same time, I was raised with self-confidence, so it didn't kill me in the sense, oh, I'm stupid, I didn't. It just there was this dissonance between, okay, there's nothing wrong with my mind. He explains it to me. It doesn't land. If I understand it, I can explain it to people. Why can he not explain it to me first? Isn't that his job? It didn't click. So I spent 6-7 years with getting sand in my eyes, basically. And everything sensible I learned outside school. At the age of decades later, I have a little regret, because there is so much I could have learned. I learned a little Latin, for example, or so, and it's so valuable, and the little pieces I got from school, they are so valuable afterwards. So I'm not saying it's bad what they tried to do, but they just didn't try it well. And I had definitely a feeling that something needs to be improved in that area. Okay,
so would you agree to the statement that if you choose the profession of teacher, it should be not because it's prestige or your parents want to do so, or it's like a necessary step, but it should be the first. It should be like inner decision, inner feeling that yes, I have this, like you had this urge. I want to write a book. It's not becoming a writer, or so, but just yes, this is some kind of urge. I need to do this. I cannot not do this. And about the teachers as well. If the teacher has this attitude, then everything would go much different than you had the experience.
Sorry, I lost the question.
The question was just the statement. That would you agree to that statement? That teacher have to be a teacher with his from his soul, from his deep soul, not just because of the profession.
That's definitely an ideal. Yes, I don't know if you can demand it from a school system that everyone does this from his soul. There are people also. What can I say? Ideally, yes.
Okay.
And ideally, and I have noticed that one good teacher, like one really good teacher, can handle a class of 40 people, while a bad teacher can fuck up one with 6 people or 6 pupils. So I don't know what is the right thing. I don't have a total solution with this, and I just try to do my thing, one at a time, yeah.
Okay, and you have your 2 sons.
Yes.
And you paid a lot of attention when during the period when they grew up.
Yes.
So what was your main values which you were focusing on, and why?
Okay. First of all, I need to admit that when I became a father and I had 2 young sons, which is only 13 months between them, that I had no idea what to do with them. Up until a certain point, I didn't know, what is this? It's like a package somehow, you should take care of. I didn't know what to do. I know it sounds horrible, but that's how it was. I started to have a serious I had a very strong relation at birth. I attended birth, like when they open their eyes and all that, it's just like, whoa, something really happened. But I didn't have a strong relation before they could kick a ball.
Okay.
If that sounds really weird, it is, But after they just started to getting control over their body, I knew I could start to relate with them. And from then it was a very close relation. Yes.
So to what you paid attention about education, about what's important, what was important for you as a father?
For me, I had a pretty good picture what I wanted to get done. One was I wanted them to be confident, okay? But confident from inside, not just appearance. I wanted them to be confident. And you only become confident if you try stuff, and if you succeed. And I could see them if nobody interrupts them, they do things right. So if they're on a high wall and balancing on something, and if they're climbing in a tree and all that, I just watched it and they did well. So I had a feeling, okay, mostly confidence is about not interrupting what they're doing. And I do remember a particular situation where one of my sons had to balance on a high wall that was increasingly getting higher, and it was about this big, and he had to balance on it. And he was totally cool. He just walked, and I was below him. He could only fall on one side, not on the other. So I just walked, and then, okay, if he trips, I catch him. Okay? Not a big deal. So he was, I don't know, 2, 3 something. So I would just catch him. So I just walked there, and he continued, and I was totally confident he would do right, no problem. Then my mother came, watched what was happening, and said, "Oh, be careful." And instantly he fell off the wall. It was really because he was looking around, what do I need to be careful about, and then he lost balance. So this seems to be an oversimplified story, but it really made impression on me because he knows. They know what to do. Just don't interrupt them. And of course, they don't know everything. And of course, if a mistake happens, you need to be there to make the mistake cheap. Okay, so they don't break legs and all that. So you need to make the mistake cheap, but do not constantly interrupt and tell them what to do. So I wanted that kind of confidence, which is based that they are in touch with reality and get a good relation with their body, how to handle reality. And later in words, the same thing. So I wanted that kind of confidence, and I think I did a good job on that. The second one was decency. I just wanted them to become decent human beings. Much of this I got through sports, or when we got engaged with each other was through sports a lot, because there you learn how to, sometimes you compete, sometimes you collaborate, and you kind of get a sound impression of when to compete and when to collaborate, and not kind of become totally obsessed with always collaborating and always competing. So that was a good thing. And then decency also is like being able to lose without losing your mind, and even more important, being able to win without needing to degrade the loser. That was important to me, because a few times when I watched this in a large context, maybe even wars or something, but also in a smaller context, people who are bad winners are about the most revolting kind of thing to observe. When they win, they put their boot in the neck of the loser, kind of this attitude. So I really wanted to help them to become confident and decent. I have noticed people are not confident, are most likely to not be decent also. So that there was something like that. And then the third thing that was really important to me was personal sense making. I think children growing up is all about keeping control over your own life, a certain independence, and to not outsource your personal sense making to anything, to other people. It doesn't mean you don't ask for advice and all that, but the final decision, you need to take full responsibility and never, 20 years later say, oh, I just followed orders, or I had to this, I had to do that. So I wanted them to be good personal sense makers, which means I wanted them to be brave enough to ask questions, brave enough to come to their own conclusions, and maybe be half right about it. But if you're wrong about it, being able to change your mind, and so these three things were really important: self-confidence, decency, and personal sense making. And then for the rest, I thought, it's not up to me to tell them what they should do and be in the future. So,
and how about education? So you didn't mention that. Usually when I ask the question for parents, what do you want for your kids? The best education I can provide for them. So I didn't hear nothing about education from your perspective. So how your kids was feeling at school, and how important it is to you?
It was not, oh God, I'm a bad father. It was not really important. It wasn't really bad. Oh God, embarrassing. Since I was not very good in school and marks and education and all that, I just barely made it. Barely made it. And I started to study for real and become interested at the age of 24 at a university, which I entered out of pure interest, just interest, not because I had marks or education or something. And at that time, it just sucked up all the knowledge like a swamp, And so I figured they don't need to be as bad as I was in school, but I did not want to enforce, what can you say, a corset, I didn't want to enforce anything. So if they had bad marks, what I did is I tried to relate it to their future, what they had to learn, and that they learn for the sake of the learning, not for the sake of the marks. And they did reasonably well. It's fine.
So they finished the school and they also applied to universities and...
No, they did not apply to university. It was actually similar to myself. They immediately went out into the world and started discovering stuff, and they maybe they will do it later. It's possible, but I didn't go for academic training. They didn't do that, no.
So, but still, how they are now doing in life, there's if you didn't finish university, so there's a high probability that you will get a low-paid job and so on, and this is what the parents are worried about.
Yeah. There is a good reason to be worried about. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. So they're doing well. One is, what can you say? A local politician in a Swedish city, right? And the other one has been for 10 years actually a model, okay, and is into crypto, and also likes to work with his hands. So yeah, what can I say? I have a feeling this is not up to me. What they want to do with their life is up to them. We're just really good friends. We're going hiking sometimes. Meet quite often. We have a very good relation. And for some reason, maybe it's because I was a bad father who didn't kind of put enough discipline on them, but they never had this age where they had a feeling they need to revolt against me. I hear this very often, and like that at a certain age, teenage, they go completely neurotic, and doing great stuff, and start hating you, and I don't know what.
Wonderful. This is something very, very actually important, because I also have inner feeling about that. This is not the way it should be, that at the teenage age, kids are starting to hate parents and start to build a wall between them and so on. But this is absolutely wrong. This is not like in the nature that it meant to be.
Yeah.
And your story is really giving tips to what to pay attention that it is not happening. I think you should share the stories very, very broadly and write this in the book, that it is not meant to be like that, that the parents and kids are having these fights at the teenage age, because if we understand what is happening with them in that period of life, and what is really important, what really makes them successful and happy person, happy human being, here is I want to share, didn't put the discipline, but saved your relationship. If to choose, I also prefer close and trustful relationships. It's from Guna Kissa, from one of our listeners, and she will also be a speaker in a forum about modern and meaningful education. So, Thomas, yes, let's talk about forum a little bit. You will be one of our speakers, and you will hold a workshop for parents. Just very, very briefly, can you please tell why it is important for people to come together for this kind of events, to think and talk about education, and yes, about what will be your masterclass.
Okay. Why should they come? I know what I'm looking forward to meet the other speakers. I'm really looking forward to that, because anybody who is engaged in this cause must have a hell of a lot of passion, a hell of a lot of purpose in this area, and collected a hell of a lot of knowledge and understanding in this area. So I'm really looking forward to that. In the shorter speech, what I'm going to do is to relate one or two stories from my own childhood, not the one I told today, but other ones. And they are very illustrative, because somehow, I don't know why, but I have a good memory from this time. And good in the sense that it's reasonably precise, but also good memories. They're pleasant, but they're pleasant on the one hand, but on the other hand, they really illustrate what you can do wrong. Tiny little things that you can do wrong as a parent, and it's unavoidable. You will make hundreds of mistakes. I just remember some of the mistakes that were made on me, not any violence or so, nobody beating me, nothing like that, but like small mistakes where trust was broken, or somebody didn't listen, and it almost sounds oversensitive to talk like that, but and maybe I needed all this exactly as it came in order to become the adult I am, and I'm quite happy with who I am. So I cannot say it shouldn't have happened. I'm just saying there is, when you're really attentive to a child in certain situations, when you are with it, be there and let it grow somehow, and just make sure you make the mistakes cheap, but don't meddle all the time. So I have, I just have one or two stories around this. It was full of empathy for parents, of course. I have been a bad parent myself, so I'm not kind of coming with an index finger. And then there's the longer session. The longer session is about managing skills, and I'm actually using this in leadership communication training a lot. And it's about how you go through different phases when you learn skills, and when you come to a point where you're really good at something, you need to think, what do I next? And then it's essentially a spiral. You constantly go and continue in this direction. And I want to encourage parents to learn to look at that spiral and see there are certain skills which they can learn and should learn as parents. And I would call them soft skills, and in some cases deep skills, because the word soft skill is kind of has become a little wishy-washy. It's just being nice, being empathetic, But there are actually deep skills, and one deep skill, I think, I just invented it now. I don't know, whoever. I haven't seen it in academic literature, but a deep skill to me is listen without knowing what's going to happen. That is a real skill, not like asking a question, I know what's going to happen. No, being totally curious about that. And imagine the world had that kind of skill.
What a wonderful place it would be.
You actually don't know when you ask the question, and the person has space to say, So it's a little bit about that, and it actually is learnable. This is the good news. It's learnable. It's not impossible. And imagine you continue with your child, and your fellow traveler through life. Maybe you have done 30 years. This one has done 3 years. And you're traveling on the same road, and you actually have a real conversation. Instead of just taking care of some care package, which it doesn't want to be at all. It hates it. Okay,
This is so deep. This is so true and absolutely meaningful. And I'm very sympathized with all of this, having this feeling inside that this is reachable. This is not something imaginable. This is actually who we real human beings are. Just allow each other to be and enjoy each other's company. Which I want to point out one word, leader, because every parent is a leader in my world, as I see it. Maybe you can precisely describe what you understand under the word leader. Who is the leader?
A leader is, it's showing the way. Showing the way. God, it's a big topic, leadership. In the past, in my professional career, I thought leadership means get people to follow, be clear what you want, improve your ability to have an impact. In the background, always confidence, decency, and this kind of thing. But in the end, leadership, like the instrumental part, like the technical part of leadership, is about clarity. It's about confidence. It's about getting people to follow, getting everybody to look at the same goal. That's the technical part. For the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, which have been surreal in many ways, and I will not get into it. It shows that leadership is also about where are we going and why. And when you look at I'm a parent and I should lead. Many parents, I think, understand this, that they need to make people or make their children able to function in society and be successful. Function and be successful in society. But many parents have given up on the idea to think about where are we going. So if I lead, where do I lead? And this is it's really an important question. It depends on, I need to look at the child. What is this? This child, what is that? Is this a dog that needs to be trained? Is this a soldier that needs to obey orders? Is this, whatever, what is this? And I think as a parent, one should take responsibility for the larger picture also, because only then you know where you lead, not just lead by habit, but lead towards something. So I think parents to some degree should take responsibility. What is the world? What is the planet? What is that? And here's this child, and it should be able to survive. So what is the planet, for example? Is it a hospital? Is it a prison? Is it a base camp? Is it a womb? So people get kind of ready to go out into space. What is it? Who is this in front of me? Should that person be able to obey? Should that person be able to create their own future? Yeah, I see. It's a plant.
What needs to be raised? Yeah.
Yes. Whatever metaphor or analogy you have, I think needs to be looked at so you are aware, because every metaphor has, in my experience, advantages and maybe disadvantages and weaknesses and strengths and all that. And leadership is automatically, it doesn't need to be, it's automatically embedded in the picture you have, this metaphor you have of life, because you're in it, and you will bathe kind of your child in that as well, with your leadership in every micro decision. I have changed my metaphors slightly, and when I have grandchildren, I will probably have a little more nuanced idea about, maybe it's not all about confidence, maybe it's not all about decency, but these were kind of the things that stuck with me and worked well. And I have a feeling I have raised sons who are a lot more contribution to society than taking out of it. And that I cannot ask more of myself. I couldn't at the time. Yeah.
This is absolutely brilliant. When I was seeking for my own answers as well, I really got this deep understanding about that in the future will exist this what we care about today. And recently I heard a statement about leadership, that leader is the person who sees what need to be done in case to reach some kind of picture. It's absolutely about what you are saying. It's not about that. I know that I have also this perspective on my mind that when I am raising a kid, so I am responsible about it, and that's why he or she should listen to me, and this is the way I lead. It's not it's not working at all. It's just destroying the relationship between us. But when I am seeing this, like, okay, we have a picture, what is really important for us, and in each moment you are trying to be aware of what I will care about now, in the future will exist in a more strong way. And like Guna is writing, that every kid is like a plant, and every plant needs this own soil, this amount of sun and amount of water, and then treatment and everything. So that's why the education cannot be only one way to all kids. This is the main idea under the forum, which will going to happen. And if we can return back to the question about the life purpose, because this question is very, very commonly asked. You are lucky that you didn't receive this question. Oh, who you want to be when you will grow up? And okay, just to start to be nervous and figure it out, and as soon as you can, and so on. And I just want to read the idea I came across and share it with you, and have your feedback on it. So that the pressure to find my purpose or a special mission in a world, what should be achieved somewhere in the future. When you think about it, yes, what you will become when you will grow up, what you will achieve, what's your mission, and this makes existence here and now like meaningless. This will be in the future something I will get. It's like for now I'm nothing. But if we connect it with the understanding that exactly in this moment, what you feel is what you are growing inside yourself in the future. And if you feel meaningless right now, or a kid in the school, if he or she feels this meaningless of all existence, this is exactly what they will get in the future. They will not get to their mission or their purpose or their urge to write a book or whatever it is, because at that moment they feel meaningless. And this is what they will create in the future.
Yeah, good point. I think it's it could be dangerous to try to label or put a name, put words on a mission. Words itself already kind of cut reality into pieces, like a cookie cutter. It's just a certain part of reality, but there's actually something here, something there, something special, and all that. And this evolves. It kind of, it floats like an amoeba almost. It's moving in different directions, changing form. And if you try to put a label on it too early, it actually restricts it. Maybe I'm lucky because I'm thinking in pictures normally. So when I see some potential, I don't need to put words on it, but I can watch it with great pleasure. I just can see it moving, and then maybe I think of a word that doesn't exist yet, in order to describe that. But if I use existing words, it would be like a cookie cutter thing, it destroys something, some aspect of it. And putting a mission or trying to make a mission statement too early, I think can destroy certain really important stuff. I actually have noticed it with companies also. Just 10 years ago, I was absolutely sure every company should have a mission. And I changed my mind because, small companies are a little bit like children, and when they grow, you don't know yet where they grow. And if you try to put a mission on it and kind of completely, okay, this is where we go, it might be too early. It just needs to become viable, and it will happen. And And when you formulate it at the right time, it really creates power. If you try to formulate it too early, it's more like a bonsai tree. You just cut it to pieces that fit your idea. Not good. Actually, this was a long-winded way of agreeing with what you said.
Okay. Thomas, I hope also all the listeners now and in the future will also have this feeling that this inner, okay, I would love to continue to have a conversation with Thomas, and I'm so lucky that then time to time I'm having the conversations with you, and then having the opportunity to share the thoughts and listen to you, but the time is so we are now at the end of our conversation. I'm very, very thankful to you, and
thank you for having me.
Yes, and I invite
all the listeners. Usually, I'm much cooler. It's just a topic that really kind of there's passion in it. So my hands start moving around and stuff. So normally, I'm much cooler. You know me. Oh God, sorry, I interrupted. Continue.
It's because this topic is important. This topic really matters, and this is the urge inside that we are somehow able to shift towards the future we really want to be in, and it consists on some emotional, not some, but a lot of emotional elements, how we want the people feel around us, how we want to feel, and then we can learn whatever we want to learn. This ability is not decreasing by age is increasing. It's just the ability to learn something new is decreasing because of the stress amount, not because of the age or something. So if we can make a world more joyful and less stressful for us, for our kids, the learning it's just naturally happens because it's life itself. It just develops. Okay, let's make learning meaningful, and let's meet at the forum. Thank you again, and see you soon.
Thank you, Olga. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.